Real estate is simply the clothing that finance wears. And so they're two separate analysis, two separate negotiations.
I think ego's a big preventer even looking at it in the first place, because there's that anti-you or ego that's saying, like, you're not responsible for this mess that was created. Like, it can't be you. It was somebody else's.
Sounds like my daughter.
Well, welcome to the Cash Flow Bros podcast. My name's Todd.
My name is Jordan.
Rob?
And we have our first guest, our very first guest. Greg, why don't you introduce yourself?
This is Greg in the corner.
Right? Yeah. Greg in the corner.
Right.
Yeah, so you get to be our first guest. You know, we've honestly played with the idea, for the most part, Cash Flow Bros has been the three of us talking about the Birmingham market, our current investments, kind of trying to give people insight into this market. And you have been a coach for Rob for several years now, and just a depth of real estate knowledge and knowledge about also airplanes, which I've learned
A lot.
lots of different things. But we just thought, you're coming in town, you're hanging out with Rob, you're looking at some of these townhome deals, and I was like, let's just get you on the podcast. Let's have you hang out with you and have a conversation about what you kind of think happened in the market. But right before, I love what you just said. I'm going to just dive right into it and just recap it, because we didn't even hit record and you were dropping gold already. We were talking about the most recent Huskies in Arizona game. And why don't you just recap what happened and then how you kind of paralleled that into your own investing career? Just so fluid.
This is a daily thing.
Good.
Well, you know, for me, just from a frame perspective, I pretty much see everything in metaphor. You know, things happen, you notice something. It's not just that. It's, what does this mean in the bigger picture? What is the lesson here in the life picture or in a bigger business picture? I can't help it. It's just the way my brain works. It's the next level of thought where you can learn things from everything if you try to figure out the bigger lesson. And in this game, I'm a Washington Husky, right? My dad,
Alabama fans will have to forgive you,
I
right?
know, forgive me. My dad played ball for the Washington Huskies, and I have his Husky helmet on my shelf in my office, and it's we were pretty much born purple and gold, and so the Huskies have been playing well this year.
Okay.
But last week they played ASU, Arizona State University, in Husky Stadium at homecoming.
Oh man.
Oh, I didn't know it was homecoming.
And they
Wow.
came out on the field in this uniform that was special for homecoming, with this bright, sparkly purple helmets and these gold, sparkly face masks and gold bottom shoes. And you're like, already that worries me, because
Never a good sign.
you know what I
Never a
mean?
good
It's like,
sign.
you're looking way too fancy.
Pretty.
Let's
Yeah.
just hit
Let's
somebody.
Let's go play
you know?
some football.
Right. And we just got it taken to us, period. We just got our butts kicked. And we had 4 turnovers in the game, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. We couldn't do anything right. And they were, they're an inferior team, at least by statistics, like all over the board. But they were excited. They were enthusiastic.
They weren't wearing gold.
They were in their white normal uniforms and
Work clothes.
and work clothes.
They were swing a
they were
hammer.
hustling and they were going after it. And they were running in and off the field. And boy, somebody'd make a tackle and there'd be just 5 guys jumping up and down. You go, they've got enthusiasm. They're in the zone and they're hungry.
Yeah.
And so they were taking it to us. And I mean, had at halftime and here we go into the second half, and shortening it up, it came down to where there was, let's just say, 3 minutes left in the game, and they have the ball. They're up by 4. They're up by 4. We haven't scored it. I think we have 9 points, 3 field goals, right? And anyway, they're up by 4. And they're driving, and they drive all the way down to the field, using up the clock, and they get to where it's 4th and 3 on about the 10-yard line. So,
Game over.
10
So,
yards to
football
score the
101.
goal.
What do you do?
Right.
Kick the field goal.
And I'm
Block.
going, well, here it is. Here's the chip shot field goal. They're up by 7. We've got 2.5 minutes left, but we haven't been anywhere near the end zone all game. They've been just three and out, you know? And so I thought, well, boy, we got our work cut out for us now, because now we got to drive the field and score and make the extra point just to tie. All that was just, that's a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And they came out on the field at 4th and 3, and they lined up to take it out of the shotgun. I went, oh, well, they're just trying to draw us off sides. They're trying to get the first down. You know, they're just trying to burn more clock. And then they hiked it. And I literally couldn't believe it. I could feel, I went, like, what are they doing? And we blitzed, and the quarterback's on the run, running from right to left, being chased. He circles around kind of behind to try avoid being sacked. And then he throws the ball all the way back across the field from left to right, all the way to the other side of the field to a guy that's near the sidelines that looked open. But he's throwing this big looping pass all the way across the field. And our safety came and just saw it coming and just picked it off and went all the way 90 yards for a touchdown.
Mind blown.
And I sat there and went, as much as everybody around me, you know, yay, Huskies, yay, look at this good thing we did. I just sat there and went, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
That coach for ASU isn't going to have a job tomorrow. That was the single worst decision I've ever seen in football. And there it is. And immediately my mind goes into metaphor land. And I always personalize the metaphors. Metaphor means nothing if you just throw it out there to the world. It's like, and the question was, where have I beat myself? Where have I made a stupid decision that cost me the game? That where something went real wrong from there because I made a dumb decision. Now, we all make mistakes. There's no question about that. But this was a timeout before this play.
Oh, was it?
They got together. They decided here was our plan.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? It was not a good plan.
Yeah.
And it cost them the game.
Tried to get fancy.
It cost them the game. And so one of the things, Todd, I suppose, to extend the metaphor that I've done, and I've asked many of my students to do it. I have at least 80 of them, little 1-inch binders, and they're the debrief binders. When something goes really, really wrong in life, you write a college grade brief. You pull it apart to take it back. What happened? Where did I miscalculate? What happened that this all went to hell? You know?
Yeah.
And if something goes really, really right, you do the same thing because you want to rinse and repeat. You don't want it to be an accident or a lucky play. You want to go, what elements led to this happening? And then I'm going to deliberately go after the elements. I'm going to go, okay, it started with this relationship that led to this. And you can go, more of those relationships, more of what seemed to be serendipitous. Now I'm going to become more intentional about opening the next door that led to this, that led to this.
Yeah.
The rinse and repeat. It's almost the same idea that if you buy a building in a certain, okay, I've just bought this and I've got it cleaned up and here it's rolling. Who are your neighbors?
Yeah.
Who's right next door? Who's across the street? Waldo's probably staring at you out some window right now. You just got to spot him.
Yeah, yeah.
It's right there. I mean, you do a deal with one person and they know you and they trust you. You nurture that relationship. Just out at a project today. It's the pre-existing relationship that led to the next relationship. Yeah.
So I want to break that apart a little bit, Greg, because obviously, not everyone sits down and does a college level, paper on their mistakes.
Which is a great idea because most people just think they'll remember.
Yeah.
Oh, something went well here. I'll just remember that next time that happens. And you can't do that.
So talk me through what do you think are the things that prevent people from really dissecting their problems and finding the issues and then moving forward?
That's almost a psychological question, Todd. I'm not sure I'm even qualified to ask that. And,
Yeah.
and the beauty is that on my watch, when something really goes right, I'll say, hey, by the way, 2 weeks from now, we're going to talk again. I want this paper.
Yeah.
I'm not asking, I'm telling. Or if something really goes wrong, I'm going to say, okay,
You
what's
need to
coming,
write that
right?
paper.
You're going to write it. You're going to send it to me, and I'm going to read it, and then we're going to talk about it.
That's
But I
good.
want you to have a hard copy. And you just start making these little 1-inch notebooks.
Right.
And you date them, and they have a cover sheet, and right? And I don't mean just about business. I mean about life.
Yeah.
I mean about something that just didn't go well or really went right.
Yeah.
Know thyself, study thyself, make yourself a test lab, right? Get to know who you are and where your best gifts are and what you can see patterns,
Yeah.
right?
So as you've written some of these yourself, can you name a few traits that or life lessons you pulled from your own papers on the successes?
I can tell you one that I've pulled it off the shelf many, many times. Something can be our greatest gift and our greatest Achilles at the same time.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it gets interesting, because knowing the difference between these. For example, my gift, in the good sense of the word, is persistence. I just don't know how to say quit. Period.
Yeah.
And if I get knocked down, I get up, I get up, I get up, I get up. You have to kill me. I wrote an ism that addressed this after much contemplation, because there is a time that letting go is actually harder. But there's a time when that's the wise thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You extrapolate, you see where this is going, you've done your math, you go, hey, you don't need to be told twice. You've got to go in a smarter direction. Being that hard-headed, nothing's going to stop me, I finish everything I start, can actually be your Achilles.
Yeah.
And so this leads into that discussion of the you and the anti-you. We have the you and the anti-you in our head. It's our same voice, both the you and the anti-you. It sounds just like us. It's in our audible voice, but one's your advocate, one's your adversary. And really knowing the subtle differences of those voices takes being quiet. It takes, we had a discussion of this the other day. It takes being quiet and setting aside time to listen to yourself, to think, to process. If I were to give one nugget, it's absolutely throw your phone away for the first hour of the day. Get in a very, very quiet place. You might want to bring a notepad and pen and just think. Empty your brain. Think. Think. In our life, with continuous partial attention and stimulus coming at us like bees from every direction, it's so rare to just pause and think and process.
Yeah.
So, these debriefs, or it could be like a simple little bird that, you follow certain steps and you execute, and it's like, that took me 2 months. I put $100,000 in my account, and I still own the property. You go,
How do I do that again?
I want to write that brief and be able to teach it
Yeah.
to an 8th grader or a PhD. I want to know the language of what happened so well, because I want to do that over and over and over again. I want to keep owning the property, put $100,000 tax-free in my account, and move on to the next bird.
Yeah, that's good.
Wow. How? And because I've been a student of that, you really start adding up. You start looking at the win briefs and go, wow, there's some common threads here.
Yeah.
And the lose briefs, like, ego. You know, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, common thread there.
Yeah.
You aren't all that in a bag of chips. You got a little cocky here. You made this assumption. You know, whatever. And you start knowing the themes of success and the themes of those things that set you backwards.
Yeah.
right?
That's good.
Yeah.
I think ego's a big preventer of even looking at it in the first place, because there's that anti-you or ego that's saying like, you're not responsible for this mess that was created. Like, it can't be you. It was somebody else's fault that this happened. But
Sounds like my daughter.
when you, yeah, I think it's our natural state. But when you really look at it and really start thinking about it, there's a danger that you find out you're responsible and
Yeah.
and have to figure it out from there.
I love the concept. There's a Navy SEAL jock. I don't know if you're
Oh, yeah.
familiar with
Everybody
him,
knows
but he
Jock.
talks about extreme ownership
Oh yeah.
and really like boiling down to just owning like what aspect, what was under your control, what could you change, instead of just pushing off like, oh, it's probably them. Oh, it's probably them. And I'm sure that these briefs that you're talking about really cause you to sit down and think and really internally say like, how could I have made this outcome better? And so, and like you said, not just business, but life,
Yeah.
because we're living really the race of life. Business is a part of that. But it's not the whole story.
And it, as you said, Rob, it's difficult to, none of us want to look in the mirror for extended periods of time. Right. You know, you'll see a stranger and go, who is this? And I think in all fairness, sometimes you'll look there and you go, I'm going to take responsibility for these things. And I'm going to make a list of those things that I absolutely see. I could have brought a better game. I could have brought more preparation. I could have brought whatever it is that you're looking at. But I also think that there's a world that blames everybody but themselves. And for the strong person, right?
Mm-hmm.
The world wants to pile blame on something and somebody.
Yeah.
And so I think there's wisdom in where you don't take responsibility for it too.
Yeah.
In other words, the question isn't just the outcome that dictates success or failure. The evaluation is more around, did I give this my very best effort?
Yeah.
Did I bring my best game to the table? I've been beat a lot of times in the world of athletics, competitive athletics, and if somebody beats me, if somebody shoots a 74 on tough conditions, you go, hey, you just gave me a school. You toured me. I got beat. Here, let me pay. I learned something. You beat me. Congratulations. But if you go out and you triple bogey the last 3 holes and it gets away from you, or oh man, I jumped off sides 3 times and cost them the game in the last minute. That's where you've really got to dial in and say, okay, when I beat myself and I know it, but I can't be responsible for everything.
Yeah.
So it's that wisdom.
That's good.
Yeah. The debrief is being honest with it.
Yeah.
It's being honest with it. Yeah.
So we would be not doing us a service. You've been in real estate for how many years now?
Yeah. Way, way longer than you are.
You don't want to say.
I'm close. I'm getting close, and there's got to be a party. We need a party. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's commit to the party, and then I'll tell you how long. Right.
Okay.
There should be a party.
Yeah.
When I've been at this 50 years, there should be a party. Right.
Okay.
Okay. I'm getting close. So
You're
I'll let
getting
you know.
close. Okay.
Yeah.
So he'll send
I'm
the
closer
invites
to
out.
50 than I am to 45. So
All
That
right.
tells it. I mean, the depth of knowledge that you have to have about this industry and the market and seeing cycles. So we're kind of, what I feel like is unique in some ways, because we still have a really low supply, especially we just went over Birmingham market that, recently, and we're still really slow supply. Appreciation isn't skyrocketing. But we're not in the negatives on the appreciation level. And we have these really high interest rates that should, in theory, be pushing prices further than they currently are. Just tell us your take on kind of what's happening. And obviously, Birmingham's a little different than the West and the East Coast and all these different things. But just given your depth of knowledge, what are your thoughts?
Well, let me tell you first that I have a unique perspective. And the first perspective that makes it unique is that I have the privilege of dealing with, the likes of you guys and Rob Drum in every major city in this country.
Yeah.
I mean, humor me. Name any major city, and I'll tell you who's stirring it up there.
San Antonio.
San Antonio. Oh my gosh. Well, there's a pile there. Ron Jones is in San Antonio. Johanna Gardner's in New Braunfels, just outside of San Antonio. Andreas and Gabe Fernandez live right in San Antonio. You get the idea.
Yeah.
These are like my kids.
Just a few.
They're like my kids.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to train the best of the best in every major city in this country. So I have a kind of a national perspective on markets.
Right.
Now you're going to hate me when I go to the next piece of this. I believe that when you're a successful real estate entrepreneur, you are not driven by markets.
Mm-hmm.
You're driven by opportunity.
Right.
And for every what we might perceive to be adversity, there's an equal and opposite opportunity. How you read the market is, okay, I'm seeing, product low, I'm seeing product high, I'm seeing interest rates here or there, I'm seeing days on market here or there, I'm seeing appreciation. We look at all these things. But really what we do as entrepreneurs is we go to the opportunity that the reality is presenting itself.
Right.
And not just the reality in markets, the reality in the dynamic, ever-changing world of real estate entrepreneurship. 10 years ago, nobody knew what Airbnb was, right?
Sure.
You see, the whole idea of midterm rentals, short-term rentals, pad split, all these various app-based nuances that are now a part of our life and language in real estate. Well, 10 years ago, they were cutting edge, just coming out.
Yeah.
And so the ability to adapt and understand the changes in landlord-tenant law and how that affects the ownership of certain types of real estate. In other words, we live in a dynamic world of factors that the entrepreneur ducks, weaves, flexes, sees the opportunity and moves in that direction.
So given that, what is the current opportunities you foresee given the current market?
There's several.
Market.
There's several.
Yeah.
Let's start with finance. There's a world that does not trust normal investment markets right now. Matter of fact, you even look at the world just pressing on cryptocurrency and this whole push and awareness around that. It really is based and coming from a reflection of being disturbed by normal currency markets. There's got to be a better way, right? They're trying to invent something. Okay, so it shows the unrest in normal markets. In the world of stocks, it was so driven by confidence in overall country and politics. Well, it's never been more unconfident than it is now. So the world of normal markets, people are just so distrusting of that, which means where do I put investment dollars? What do I do with retirement funds?
Yeah.
What do I do with investment funds that I might have available?
Right.
And here opens the opportunity to, what does money want? It wants collateral. It wants return. It wants customer service. That's what money's always wanted. Simple money. It wants those things. And if you can show something in real, tangible, black and white terms, that here's the collateral at a low leverage number, here's the income stream and cash flow and how this can pay you every single month. And by the way, customer service is this phone number and I answer my phone.
Yeah.
And I'm here and I'm looking at you. And this isn't some call center on the other side of the world. It's me right here. These basics of finance, there's opportunity in finance right now. And how you can address the marketplace and people's, helping them get their retirement funds into a self-directed IRA account. And then out of that, helping them invest their dollars in projects that make sense, that are solid and return capital and grow their retirement. There's opportunity there. Product type. Landlord-tenant law through COVID just took a real beating in the world of providing housing, direct housing.
Yeah.
Okay, but people have to live somewhere, and we're in the real estate business. What do? Well, there's ways of providing housing sort of on a secondary level. RV parks, mobile home parks, where you don't own the kitchen sink and the drippy nature of it. You own the dirt that you lease them to hook their unit onto. I really like that. Things that don't involve living in that space, commercial real estate, storage, RV storage. These are opportunities that are glaring in the marketplace. You know, COVID had a rush on the market of RVs. Like more RV sales in that 3 years than ever in history, right? But two things happen. A, they take them home and they get the nastygram from the neighborhood that says you can't park that here. Oopsie,
Yeah.
Oopsie, didn't think about that. And then the
20
second thing is they want to go
24-footer
camping. There's no place to plug them in because everything's a 15 amp breaker, and your fancy AC doesn't work without a 30 amp breaker. And so again, there's obvious needs that we can provide as real estate entrepreneurs in the storage world, in the RV park world. And so again, it's paying attention to demand.
Yeah.
But demand is happening in different ways right now. And the demographic of people, we're living differently.
Yeah.
There's a whole generation that, like, you say, let's take your car. Well, I don't have a car. You're 35 years old. What do you mean you don't have a car?
I
Car?
don't need it.
Oh, no, that just sounds like, where would you put it? I don't, maintenance? No, I just Uber. You know, if I need to, interesting. And bigger square footage and all that's micro units and tiny homes and park models and these sorts of things are, again, it's an evolution in this industry.
Yeah.
Which for me, I mean, you heard how long, right? I've been at this coming up on 50 years. And the thing that I've loved about this business is that it's ever changing and there's no ceiling.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's just no ceiling. You look at a silly little house you're going to renovate, and then, you grab your phone and flip to pictures of Dubai and go, well, they're both real estate.
Yeah.
They're both real estate. They work off the basic principles of dirt and roof, right? And so it's endless in its nature of how long you can be interested in this.
Yeah, it is awesome. Like, you can learn something new every day. And it's almost one of those things that, I found as I start out, you've heard of shiny object syndrome. And I've had to actually tell myself to, like, hey, hone in on one craft, learn one thing, and then gain the next thing, the next year or the next, next quarter or whatever it is, because it is so vast. You can almost build a bridge to 20 islands and never get to any of them.
But here's
that's the
common
interesting
thread,
thing.
though, Todd. The common thread among all product types is deal structuring
Yeah,
and finance.
that's good.
There's where if I'm handing out advice, this is where every real estate entrepreneur has to major.
Yeah.
And this is where I just love, your leadership, Rob, in this group in Birmingham, is because, you've majored in it. You've taken it, your understanding of it, to deep levels of finance and deal structuring. And that is the hill we all have to die on. Real estate is simply the clothing that finance wears. And so they're two separate analysis, two separate negotiations, two separate due diligences around the dirt, sticks, bricks, expandability, zoning, et cetera,
Right.
and then the deal structure and the finance. And of the two, this is 75% of the equation. This is 25%.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting, and I want to circle back this whole idea of the instability or mistrust with the current financial markets. And, you know, you see with the stock market going up and down and up and down, and, you know, people looking at their 401ks and just being like, this is not doing what you said it was going to do. And it is a prime time to, like you said, give people opportunities to be open to some creative financing options backed by a real asset, you know, that they actually may own in the first place.
Sure, that they may own or that they may want to invest in.
Yeah.
But is it really creative? You think about what banks offer, right?
Right.
Bank financing isn't creative. Right? They say,
No, it
"Hey,
is not.
we want you to have
It is the opposite.
some real blood in the game, right?
Right.
For the non-owner occupied person, we're investors, right? So you're going to have some blood in the game. We're going to lend you the money. Here's the term, here's the fees, here's the rate, here's the collateral. It's all laid out. There's nothing creative about it. If you look at 10 of them, they're all going to look almost exactly the same on what they are on point with.
Yeah.
And yet offering that same sort of a non-creative opportunity to people, and yet with more collateral, a better return, and more customer service. I mean, from an investor's standpoint, we borrow money from people to go do what we do.
Yeah.
They have a passive interest, but they have a return, they have collateral, they have customer service. And isn't that what money's really wants? If you were to look at people who throw money at the stock market and say, what's your expectation? If everything goes right, what does it look like? They would say, well, I hate paying fees, so I wouldn't want any fees, right? I want to know if everything goes wrong that I get all my money back and the return I was promised, right?
Yeah.
And I want to know if I have questions, I get a hold of somebody and they're right there with me and somebody I trust.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be like the genie in the bottle that you'd ask for?
Yeah.
And yet, isn't that what we offer? Either to a seller by borrowing their equity,
Right.
or to people who have money in various forms that want to invest. Isn't that what we offer?
Yeah.
And we should be proud to offer that. And we don't normally charge them fees, right? In other words, we're giving the best of all worlds.
Not a lot of people think that way, but from my perspective of having done transactions like that and worked with people like that, once people have started, been on the beneficiary end of receiving monthly income stream,
Yes.
backed by, if there's a problem, they call me, all the things you just said, they really like it.
They do.
It's a very attractive
I don't know
option.
where it was on the internet, Rob. I'm not good at that, but I did. Ryan carved something out and sent me a link of an interview you did with a gentleman that you bought real estate.
Oh yeah,
from.
yeah.
Neat old guy, really sharp old guy, and it was exactly what we just said, except he said it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you need. You need them to be.
He says like, oh boy, Rob Drum and I, we're like partners, you know, and at 12:01 on the day that payment's due, it's just automatic, goes right to my account. I can just see it come into my account. He pays me every time, right at that first day of the month, right at the second it turns that day, that money's in there.
Yeah.
And I do business all day long with Rob Drum. And you know what? Nobody paid him to say that.
Well, he kind of did.
Did you?
Yeah.
How much did it
There was
cost?
a monthly
Well, I've been
payment.
paying him for years. I mean,
You had to buy him like, what is it, one meat and three sides or something?
I did bring him a cinnamon chocolate chip cake.
That
the
would
old
So
be
he
that's-
paid him off with
Okay.
sweets.
That's
Paid him
fair.
off with
Customer
sweets.
service.
Yeah, the
it's
customer
customer
service.
But you
Yeah.
know what? To me, it has been that simple as. But maybe you're right. We don't normally think that, and therefore, but again, we get to choose what we believe.
Right. No, that's good.
And just because somebody hasn't done this doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean it's not consistently able to be done.
Yeah.
You know, belief leads to intention or lack thereof.
Yeah.
And when you believe something and you know it can serve somebody, you intend to put that proposition forward.
Yeah.
And when you do, people say, yes, that would be great. And especially in this climate, in this climate, we would say this is more of a buyer's market than a seller's market right now. It certainly has shifted in the last year and a half or so. And so we have listening audiences. And this is where your ability to communicate finance in a way that really is understandable, very clear, have the ability to draw on references that you pay monthly to say, I'd like you to call these people and they'll tell you how it works.
Yeah.
In other words, isn't that what intention is all about? This is what I want to do, and here's my proposition.
Yeah.
Right?
That's so good. And, going back to what you said, it's like the fundamentals of an investor is to understand financing. Because, we talked about that shiny object. There's all kinds of islands you can build that road to, but they all kind of require some of the same building blocks.
It's the common thread.
And the common thread would be understanding deal structure, which is so great.
Which, Todd, my observation is I've been blessed to speak to every real estate investment group in this country, and all the big ones. And I will start talking about what I would call simple deal structuring.
Yeah.
Or groups of brokers, huge group of brokers, and say, well, listen, I'm going to advocate. How many people own real estate, investment real estate for your own account? And maybe 10% of the room raises their hand. Like, okay, very, very common. Let's talk about what that looks like.
Yeah.
This isn't brokerage, which really is marketing in the residential world these days, right? It's just marketing. Okay. But let's talk about investment, and let's talk about the basics of investment. Let's talk about leverage. Let's talk about, leverageable equity. Let's talk about how you create movable collateral and how you create notes that can be sliced up, how you have a first right of refusal to purchase the note should somebody elect to sell the note in the future. In other words, these very, very basic elements of creating financial agreements, promissory notes, collateral agreements, etc.
Right.
And in the most basic conversation you could possibly have, you realize that 90% of your audience is glazed over. They don't know what you're talking about. And all it means is that they haven't leaned in to really study what real estate investment and entrepreneurship is really all about.
Yeah.
You can't do it and teach it and perform it if you don't know it.
It's good.
And so it's a different language. It's a different world than most people know.
Yeah.
And so when you do know it, the world's your oyster, I can tell you.
I will say that after coming back from the Power Players, I guess it was a year ago now, I went and talked to, I forgot who it was. Maybe it was my father. He's been doing real estate for, I don't know, since I was born. So not full time, but anyways, I started talking to him about some of the things that, we talked about while we were up there. And he was like, do what? Went through the whole thing. I was like, man, I thought I broke this down perfectly. And he's like, I'm not really sure exactly what that means, but it sounds great. It sounds really good. So, but you're right.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people, if you don't understand the language, can communicate in those terms.
Yeah.
Which does make it difficult.
Definitely.
Which as we being buyers of real estate, it's on us to know this well, but what do we do every day? When we're presenting propositions to sellers, we're teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob has been a TA at Power Players. He's not just gone to Power Players. He's been a TA. He'll be a TA again this summer. And for anybody I get to work with one-on-one, I want to put them in that teaching position because you don't really know something until you teach it.
Yeah.
That's very
Right.
true.
And then because everybody's grilling you, they're asking questions. You're okay. Now I'm on the spot. I've really got to know this. It's got to be part of my bloodstream. And so the more you know that, the better you do at presenting your proposition.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we could spend 2 or 3 hours here, which is typical. But you do have a podcast coming out.
Yeah.
which is very exciting. So
November 1st. Yep, the first one.
Tell us a little bit about that, how people can get a hold of you,
Hmm.
and you know.
Well, I'm not really good at this, to be honest. You could look up the Greg Pinneo podcast. I know that.
We'll put in the show notes.
I've seen that
Yeah.
logo somewhere in those who do all of this space internet stuff. They've
Yeah.
got it set up. It's able to be seen Spotify, YouTube. What is the other one? Apple.
Yeah.
All the platforms that are there. And it will be, I'll tell you why I know it's going to be awesome. Because, again, as I said, I've been privileged to work with the best of the best in this country. And so it's off camera, but there's a young lady sitting right there that lives in Huntsville that I got to interview last week. You'll at some point see Lindy Wishard being interviewed for the podcast. I've already pre-recorded and interviewed Dr. Michael Shadow, who is the greatest teacher in negotiation in the world.
Wow.
Right? And who I was blessed to spend 6 years with way back at the university. Entrepreneurs that run big businesses, Mark Verbarnzi and Steve Nyes, we've already interviewed.
That's awesome.
So we've got a few in the can, as it were. Podcast 0 will come out on November 1st, and that is just me sort of saying what I think about this whole crazy thing called a podcast.
Yeah.
And so yeah, might want to, have a glass of wine before you listen to that one and strap in,
Yeah.
That's exciting. I'm excited. I love Steve. That's going to be a good one. I'm excited to hear what he has to
Ooh,
say.
yeah, that is a good one. There's been several that I've been blessed already to record, and I give so much thanks to Ryan. Ryan Kuntz has been with me for 20 years and has pushed me to do this forever.
Yeah.
And Jorge Juarez has now joined our team, and he has so many of your skills, Todd, in the world of internet and cameras and social media and all these things that, quite honestly, I just want to focus on life and real estate. That's what I want to talk about. And so all this other stuff that you have to know to put that in motion, it takes a village of people that are smarter than me. And so
That's great.
I'm thankful for that. Yeah,
That's great.
So it'll be good.
Well, once again, just thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
We've gotten to know each other through Rob.
Yes.
And, one of the things that I've always taken away is you have such a giving spirit.
Thanks, buddy.
Offering people to come out to your hangar and teach them. We hung out with you then, and you were like, come on to, dinner with us. And, giving of your time to hang out with us here in Birmingham. We just are super appreciative.
Mm-hmm.
Always wanting to offer, someone a helping hand. So we really appreciate you. And thanks for taking time to
Todd.
hang out with the Cash Flow Bros.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Jordan. Thank you, Rob. Your gathering here, the physical, not in the space world, the internet world, but the physical gathering this evening will be awesome, as always, to get together with the local investors. And always a privilege.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being the first guest on
First
Cash
guest.
Flow Bros.
Wow.
First
You
guest, no
said
pressure.
it, so you can't change the order now.
Yeah.
Too late.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Greg.
All right. Thanks, brother.